Ghusl, taking a bath, something which we do every day. But if you think about it, it's a pretty important part of your religion. Because if you are not ritually pure, you cannot perform some important religious deeds. And how much time and effort you put into learning the correct manner of ghusl, and how consciously and how well you perform the ghusl, shows your concern for the way you stand before Allah. Because al-ghuslu amana bayna al-abdi wa bayna rabbihi. Ghusl is a trust between you and your Rabb. And we really can't emphasize the importance of ghusl enough. Alhamdulillah, all the information and answers are taken from the writings and fatwa of the scholars. So let's begin. There are two kinds of ritual impurities, the minor impurity and the major impurity, which occurs as a result of janaba, haid or nifas. To achieve tahara from the minor impurity, you only need to renew your wudu, ablution, whereas in the case of major impurity, you need to take a ghusl. And ghusl can be taken in two ways. A complete ghusl with all the sunnahs of the Prophet, and a partial or a sufficient ghusl, which means only doing what is obligatory to free yourself from the ritual impurity. So what are these obligatory acts of ghusl? A beforehand niyyah, intention that you are taking this bath to purify yourself from the major ritual impurity, rinsing your mouth and nose, and letting water run over your entire body at least once. Make sure it reaches every part of it, even your scalp under the thick hair. If you manage to do this much, then you have purified yourself from the major ritual impurity. As for the complete ghusl, and this is the mustahab one, and it is how the Prophet ﷺ took a bath. And this is how you do it. Begin with an intention to purify yourself from the major impurity. Then say Bismillah. Wash your hands 3 times. Then with your left hand, wash your private parts and anywhere else that is contaminated with traces of impurity. Then make a complete wudu, just as you would for prayers. Then pour water over your head 3 times, rubbing and making sure that it thoroughly reaches your scalp. Some scholars said 3 times means once on the right, next on the left, and then in the center. And then pour water and wash the entire body, beginning with the right side, then the left, while rubbing it with your hands so that you are sure you haven't missed any part. So these are the etiquettes of the complete ghusl. Ghusl essentially means letting water run over every part of your body. So if you are wearing a ring, you should move it. And if it is so tight that the water won't reach the skin underneath, then you have to remove it. Cosmetic items which form a barrier and prevent the water from reaching your skin must also be taken off. In a narration of Maymuna radiallahu ta'ala anha, it is mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam moved away from the spot where he had been taking ghusl, and then he washed his feet. Sheikh Ibn al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah explained that what is apparent from the various narrations is that the Prophet washed his feet after ghusl only when there was a need. Like if the floor is made of dirt, and if the feet are not washed, they will remain soiled. So you may want to wash your feet after ghusl if there is a need. You are now well informed about the how-to of the perfect ghusl. Let us now answer some frequently asked questions about ghusl. Is the ghusl always the same? Yes, the prescribed manner of ghusl is always the same for men and women, whether you are taking a ghusl after janaba, haid or nifas, or for special occasions when it is recommended to take a ghusl. There is no difference except this. After janaba, a woman can take a ghusl without undoing her braids. After haid, it is mustahab for the woman to use a piece of cloth scented with musk to perfume the site of menstruation. If during ghusl we experience something that nullifies wudu, do we need to repeat the ghusl? Nullifiers of wudu do not invalidate your ghusl. In such a case, you will complete your ghusl and then renew your wudu for the salat. Is it obligatory to rinse the mouth and nose? What if I forget to rinse at the beginning of the ghusl? Ghusl is not valid without rinsing the mouth and nose. Just like wudu is not valid without them, because the inside of the mouth and nose are parts of the body which must be purified. And if you forget to rinse your mouth and nose at the beginning of the ghusl, you can rinse them in the middle or at the end. If I miss a spot during ghusl, do I have to repeat the ghusl? The answer to this question is based upon whether it is obligatory to wash the body parts one after the other, with no lengthy interruption in between. According to the majority view, if a person did not wash a body part or missed a spot, he may wash it on its own later, whether it is after a long time or a short time afterwards. Touching private parts without a barrier, does it invalidate wudu? Scholars are at a variance in this issue. Some say the wudu is valid, some say it is invalid. Some differentiate on the basis of touching with desire. If it is touched with desire, the wudu is invalid, and if it is not touched with desire, the wudu is still valid. Shaykh Ibn al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah says, it is mustahab to make wudu in all cases, whether one touches with desire or not. And if one touches with desire, then the opinion that it is obligatory to make wudu is very strong, and renewing the wudu in such a circumstance is being on the safe side. I have found many du'as for ghusl. Some say there is no du'a. Please clear my doubts. There is no du'a narrated in the sunnah specifically for ghusl. Bismillah is mustahab when you begin. Is ghusl enough to offer salat? If you take a complete ghusl with wudu in the beginning, there is no need to renew the wudu unless the wudu is nullified during the ghusl or after it. But if you did not make wudu in the beginning and had sufficed to the obligatory acts of ghusl, then if the ghusl was for the purpose of removing major impurity, then yes, it is enough to offer salat. You do not have to make wudu, because you had the intention to remove major impurity, and major impurity includes minor impurity. But if the ghusl was not for removing major impurity, like when you take a ghusl for Eid or for Jum'ah or just to cool off, then no, it is not enough for salat. You have to make wudu for salat, because there was no intention of removing major impurity. Don't forget to share this how-to guide with your family and friends. By sharing this video, you are helping your friends and family in their deen.